If it's Wednesday on SportsWrap, that can only mean one thing. It's the NBA Weekly with this guy, the one and only Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Can I embarrass you?
Sure.
Can I embarrass you? We didn't know if we'd have Kurt on today because Kurt did the one thing you shouldn't do with a computer, and that is spill a drink into it.
Yeah, no, I will take... It was my drink sitting next to my computer. It was the guy next to me who stood up and kind of swung his backpack to put it on in the shop, a little coffee shop, that whacked it and knocked it all over my computer. But yes, same principle. And the fine people at the coffee shop were all kind of shocked by the string of expletives that flew out of my mouth at that moment.
I can only imagine. All right, listen. I don't know how. I watched that game last night, Spurs Thunder, Game 5. Check out the highlights as we discuss, courtesy of our friends at NBC and Peacock. So I don't know how you can go from being so Wemby-centric in Game 4. I watched that game last night, and from the outset, it almost felt like they were making a concerted attempt, the Spurs, to not go to Wemby in the early going of this game, and I can't figure out why.
And not get him the ball near the rim.
Yes.
He was not. Look, when he's dangerous, and it sounds reductive because he can shoot threes and do all these other things, but he's got to start. Look, in Game 4, he had 10 shots at the rim, right? Like, if he's not getting shots right there, then he's not as dangerous. As good as he is at taking threes, and he's pretty good at, he's good, especially for his size, but in generally, like, you've got to respect it. I'll take that. I will take that on most nights. And they just didn't. Part of that is the Spurs defense, which really dug down on him. Isaiah Hartenstein has physically defended him as well as I think any human being can in a series.
Agreed.
But they've got to find a way to get him rolling and get him confident. And if they all he looked tired, sick. I'm trying to decide what if you told me, if they came out today and said he had a cold or something, like, I'd buy it, because he just didn't, their whole team did not have the energy that you need in Game 5 is as desperate as it gets almost, right? Like, it's now they've got to win 2 in a row, and they've won 2 games this series when Wembanyama was brilliant. 41, the 33-point game in Game 4, and he was moving the ball around and they were flying. He has to be the best guy on the floor for them to win. Everybody else has got to step up. There's other stuff, but that's where it's got to start. And he absolutely was not. And I expect different in Game 6, but he's got to string 2 of these games together for them to advance. And I don't know if he's got that right now. I don't know. This is where, does it feel to you like this is where the experience kicks in?
No. I'm tired of hearing about the experience stuff.
Oh.
We're at Game 5 of the Western. They've played 20 games in the postseason, or 15 games in the postseason. They've played 82 games during the regular season. They're in the West, which is a beast of a conference. So I'm actually tired of hearing about the experience thing at this point. They roll the balls out on the court. The guys go out there and play. So I'm tired of hearing about the experience. I'm not. Now, maybe a little bit with Mitch Johnson, because it's his first time as a head coach in this spot. But I think once you get into the actual game and the flow of a basketball game, I don't think I think it's I'm not calling you lazy. Please don't take this way.
No, but
I think it's the easy fallback thing to keep leaning on when you can't explain something. And I'm not saying you, but I hear when I hear it from Reggie Miller. And I'm like, come on, Reggie. You've played basketball for 100 years. You've watched the game. You've called the game. No, I don't want to hear about the experience thing.
I think there's something to just not being challenged like that night in, night out and now, in this series every other night. And I think you get tested every night in a different way. You have to deal with the adjustments and the matchups, and they haven't in this game. In this game, the Spurs came out with the Thunder came out with a new plan without AJ Mitchell.
They did.
And part of it was also, look, they couldn't buy a 3 in Game 4. They shot terribly, and their bench shot terribly, and that didn't happen in this game. They came out knocking them down, but they adjusted. They're like, all right, we got to get Wemby out of the paint, and they did a good job attacking the paint to get him in rotation, to get the ball moving. You saw more dunks in this game because they got him in a rotation out that even he couldn't recover from to the rim. That I thought that was great coaching by Dagnall, who has proven to be a great playoff coach. And now the Spurs have to adjust. And I don't know if there's time for them to adjust twice. Again, it's adjust twice. We're also, though, at that point in the series, and it's a cliche, but it's not wrong. There aren't many more adjustments. Like you now know everybody, you know everything. Now it's going to come down to will and a lot of things, and they didn't show it last night.
Jared McCain, explain to me how this. I know they have Edgecombe and Maxey. I get it.
Yeah.
But explain to me how this guy gets away from that organization when we have watched him be so vital to what the Thunder have been able to do. Not even just this series. In the playoffs, every time he's on the floor, the instant offense he provides. I didn't realize he was this good an offensive player as we've seen him in this series. He has been, I don't want to say a revelation, but to a lot of the country that may not have known him as well, a little bit on Jared McCain.
Right. Well, he was really impressive out of Duke. I mean, he went to Duke. This is a highly recruited guy.
Yeah.
You don't just get into Duke unless you're Adam Silver, apparently. No, you don't. Like, he was highly recruited. He's very good. And he had a really good rookie season on a very bad team with Embiid out and guys just missing time. And they thought he was the future, but because of the bad season, they end up with VJ Edgecombe in the draft, and he was banged up, Maxey. Yeah. But this is, let's be blunt. And I have made the Daryl Morey jokes. I made them online last night. Ownership came to Daryl Morey middle of last season, said, this team isn't good enough to pay the tax. Get us below. This was the single move that got them below the luxury tax and got them a pick, but got them below the luxury tax. And that's the money savings. And that's the decision that was made. There might have been other ways. I'm sure there were other ways to do that. And looking back, maybe they would have liked to have taken one of those other paths right now, because I would rather have that three-headed guard monster and have to figure out how it works.
Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. We'll talk about my Knicks and a whole bunch more going on around the NBA. It's the NBA Weekly on SportsWrap. So let's talk about my Knicks.
I've come around.
Listen, you've come around, but I've been telling people this. I get interviewed every Monday on this classic rock station in Connecticut that loves to talk about sports on their morning show, and they always have me on every week, and they're like, so Knicks are going to win the NBA championship. I'm like, pump the brakes. I said, if they get this, I had Bruce Beck on from NBC4 New York yesterday on the show. He's covered New York sports forever. I said, look, if they get the Spurs, I think they win the NBA championship. I do. I told you this before the season, before the postseason started. I have been very steadfast in my belief that everything in this postseason was matchup predicated for the Knicks. They got the perfect glide path to the NBA Finals by getting Philadelphia, not getting the Celtics, by getting Cleveland, not getting the Pistons. And if they get the Spurs, I think they win a championship. If they get the Thunder, I think they're out in 6 at best. I think it's a 6-game series. I don't think they match up well with that team. I don't care what they've done through the last 11 games of these playoffs, Kurt Helin. Yeah. The step up in class cannot be overstated if they get the Thunder in the NBA Finals.
Okay, I will end up picking the Thunder as well, whatever that is, but I think they've got a puncher's chance, especially against a Thunder team that will be without A.J. Mitchell. I'm hearing the calf is serious enough that if he's back in the finals, it's deeper in the run. We'll see about Jalen Williams. They keep calling him game to game, but that's the second time he's strained that left hamstring. Like that's not good. I think though, if they're 8 deep right now, because Landry Shamet has stepped up, because Deuce McBride is playing so good off the bench, they have really found a groove, and they found two things: a versatility in their offense where they can use Karl Anthony Towns as the hub. They couldn't really against Cleveland because Evan Mobley and Jared Allen make that very difficult. Those are two very good defensive big men. So they said, all right, well, let's just go back to hunting. Like, let's go back to the old school system and have Jalen Brunson hunt James Harden. But frankly, by the end, he's hunting Donovan Mitchell. He's hunting all of them and doing a great job. They have some offensive versatility. It's going to be harder against the Thunder or, frankly, the Spurs in that sense. There isn't a James Harden. There's nobody you can just like, that guy, I'm going at that guy. Like, you're going at the lesser evils, but there's no bad defenders on those teams until you get deep into the Isaiah Joe part of the bench or something.
It feels like that series is a very low-scoring series to me.
Yeah, I would agree that they're going to try to slow it down. They're going to try to – I think what they bring is a grit and a resilience that you're going to see. I will warn you, though, for the bettors out there, I think game one against either of those sides is going to be a little bit of a culture shock for the Knicks.
Yep.
Because the level of intensity being played in the West was just higher than anything they've seen. And that team is going to come in playing with a different level of energy. And I think the Knicks can get there. I think they can adjust. But that is going to be a moment one way or another.
Kurt, grit and resilience, that's the equivalent of she's got a great personality. I mean, that's what that is, Kurt. Let's be honest about it here for a second. Saying the Knicks have grit and resilience, and that's like saying, well, but she's got a great personality. I mean, that's kind of what it is, isn't it?
Look, I think you need that. Look, as somebody married for 23 years now, 24, 24 this year. Personality does matter, but is that what gets you, in the door at the first point? Probably, that's. Yeah. You're not attracted when you see somebody across the room to their personality. Yeah. So they've got the talent, though. They've got Brunson's an elite scorer. Cat is playing. The other thing they're doing is playing really good defense. And they really kind of did it all year. They were 7th in the league in defense. But Mike Brown has turned them into, or helped keep them a very good defensive team. And Mike Brown is pushing all the right buttons, by the way.
He is.
A guy, by the way, who took the Cavs to the finals, has been there with the Warriors when he got forced into the big chair in the playoffs when Kerr's back was bothering him years ago, did all that. And by the way, Mike Brown's best coaching job, Sacramento Kings have been to the playoffs once in the last 20 years, and it was when Mike Brown was the coach with De'Aaron Fox, by the way, from the Spurs. He's a good coach, man, and they'll make good adjustments.
Move away from the Knicks for a second. Cavaliers are reportedly keeping Kenny Atkinson. Is it because nobody they really want to get wants the job, knowing that James Harden is there and sort of the uncertainty of what comes next for this franchise? Or do they actually believe Atkinson's the guy? Because after this playoff run, I mean, my God, the Knicks got rid of Tom Thibodeau last year after a trip to the conference semifinals. You're telling me you can't do the same with Kenny Atkinson with some of the names that are sitting out there still?
That's a very good analogy. He was coach of the year a year ago. Remember, they had won 64 games, and he helped turn them around. I don't know that
I watched George Karl and Mike Malone be coaches of the year too, and one of them won a championship and is out of a job coaching at North Carolina. Yeah. So I don't think they think there's going to be anybody better sitting there. I think that's part of it. But also, to your point about the job, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. In their postseason. Look, there's no way James Harden gets traded there without a preset agreement on him. The expectation is he forgoes next year's contract. He gets out of his player option for, I think it's 42, 43, whatever it is, and takes like 2 years at 30. He helps them out a little bit financially because they're up there so high. Like the East jumps up a notch next year. And if you run it back with these Cavaliers, I don't know where you go, but the other option is a pretty dramatic teardown, and I don't think they're willing to go there. Before I let you go, the lottery. What's going on? What's going on with lottery reform here?
Within the next 48 hours, the owners are voting on this, and by all indications, they are going to approve a version of this 3-2-1 lottery system that completely flattens the odds. In fact, if you finish in the bottom three, you have worse odds than if you're in 4 through 10. The quote-unquote relegation zone, which is a term I hate because it's not relegation. That's nobody's getting sent to the G League out of this. But I think it will be effective in the goal the NBA has set out for it if it gets approved, which is reducing tanking. But I think it has unintended consequences that are coming hard. And the first one of those is going to be when you flatten the odds. If you did that this year, Golden State would have had the same odds as the number one pick as Washington. if you did that this year.
Yep.
Same with the Clippers.
Yep.
If somebody like, and by the way, the Thunder have about 8 trillion picks in the next few years. They have 13 first-round picks in the next 6 years.
Yeah.
When one of those jumps up and they get a top 3 pick to add to this, or whatever, can you imagine? Can you imagine if they were getting Boozer or DeBonta this year? When that happens in a couple of years, there's going to be, what did we do? So I just think my issue with this whole thing is you're getting away from the point of a draft, which is to redistribute talent, to get the best players to the worst teams, to start balancing out the league. And when you do this kind of stuff, you mess with it.
Becky Hammon. Becky Hammon not backing down on her comments on Jalen Brunson.
Which is, look, I kind of get on one sense how you got there, in the sense of like, man, he's an undersized guard. You're going to be able to target him. There comes a point where you're like, maybe it's just different. Maybe that this situation is different. He has been everything you could hope for and more in a lead guard on the court. And I don't, even if they lose in the NBA Finals, I don't think it diminishes Brunson's legacy or status in the least. He will be a New York legend forever for what he has done, and what he has done off the court, leading this organization, taking massive pay cuts.
True.
Massive pay cuts to allow them to build this
almost
roster
like you
out.
See some like NFL QBs do, where they're just giving back. Like Tom Brady was never the highest paid guy, and he should have been for so many years, and he was never the highest paid guy. He was always giving money back for the sake of the team. Brunson's that kind of guy.
Hey, man, if Brunson knows if he ever needs a free meal, he can just drive into Manhattan and pull up at literally any restaurant. He'll be fine. I'm kind of shocked she hasn't backed. Like, at some point, like I said, I came around on the Knicks. I'm like, man, I think they've got this weakness and that weakness, and they've kind of proven me wrong. They are playing brilliantly, and even if I have concerns about whether they can maintain that level one more round, it's not on Brunson. He has been fantastic for them in every sense. And I guess if you're going to stake out a position, be committed to it. But some of us are big believers in the concept of new data changing how you view things. So
I'll also say the Karl Anthony Towns aspect of that team. But we never. I was always of the mindset they couldn't win a title with Karl Anthony Towns, and changing his position basically to become a point center has been. Wow.
He's also been. This is the best stretch of defense he's ever played.
I agree.
He's been much better defensively, and that is
not fouling,
huge for them,
and not fouling as much.
And that is huge for them because obviously the target for them and what Becky's talking about is, man, I can drag Brunson and Towns into a pick and roll. And by the way, whichever team comes out of the West will test that, but they've answered it so far. They've done really well. It's a different level when that pick is being set by Chet and SGA, but it's gonna be fun.
Let me get you out on 2 quick ones. Any updates on LeBron James?
Other than there is a growing, the consensus that he is returning seems to have grown, but where is a really big question, and it comes back to we've got to see how Giannis plays out, and the other question we have discussed, which is how big a pay cut is he willing to take? Because if it's, I can construct something that gets him to Cleveland at $30 million, but it's not good for Cleveland. Like I just don't see why. Like, if he really wants to go east to one of these contenders, it's going to be for dramatically less money. So how big a pay cut is he willing to take?
Billy Donovan
was supposed to be the front runner in Orlando. And they're like, oh, that's kind of going to get done. And then it hasn't gotten done. And I don't know if they're trying to talk to Jason Kidd, if they want to talk to Jason Kidd, because if you bring in Jason Kidd, look, man, everywhere he's been, the reason he's out, it kind of finally leaked, the reason he was out in Dallas, part of it at least, was concern that he wanted the GM job that went to Masai Ujiri, or the head front office guy. He pushed for that in Brooklyn. He pushed for that in Milwaukee. He wants to be in a front office somewhere. So even if he took the job, you're like, yeah, how long before we have to deal with that? So I don't know who else they're looking at, but they're looking because they're the Orlando Magic.
Giannis.
really, I don't want to say quiet. The rumors are flying around, but I haven't heard anything new other than more people convinced he's going to move on, that even if the situation is weird, he wants out, but both sides are ready to just part ways and move on. And that he really wants to stay in the East. For all the talk of, hey, what about the Lakers? What about the Warriors? He doesn't want to come West because he's watching the West finals like the rest of us and going, these two teams are really good and really young, and where am I going to mess with and battle them? Like, he realizes what's going on in life, and so he realizes any path is easier for the next 5 years through the East. It's not that it couldn't be done, but if you're one of the up-and-coming teams in the West, it's not that it can't be done, but that path is much harder. So, but I don't know. Is that Cleveland? There's hope in Milwaukee from some fans that he stays, but I'm not convinced that this isn't done there. I just don't know where he goes.
That's Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Check him out there. That's also the NBA Weekly here on Sports Wrap. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you, man.